Right, so what do you do when you're faced with the challenge of Tyrone? I'm delighted to say Rory Beggan is with us to help us talk about this. Rory, good morning to you. How are you?
How are you, Joe? How are you getting on?
Yeah, pretty good. Before we get into that, maybe you could settle our little debate there. Who was a better team, the Tyrone team of the Naughties or the Kerry team of the Naughties?
Tight one there. Tight one, lads. We probably have to go maybe Tyrone team, probably.
You're a good man, Rory Beggan. You're a good man. You are also
Sorry,
correct.
Owen. Yeah, I just probably think that those All-Ireland wins over Kerry and stuff. And I'll have to go with them there, lads. Sorry, Owen.
I think they changed football. That's why I rate them so highly. And look,
Root 1 into Kieran Donaghy wasn't changing football enough for you.
no, it wasn't. That's the thing. I mean, look, it was amazing. Of course, if you got Donaghy, you're going to use it, and why the hell wouldn't you? And everybody wanted the Donaghy. So, but look, to be honest, it kind of feeds nicely into the conversation we're having at the moment. That the Ulster Championship, because it is so competitive, you have to be constantly innovating, and you have to change things, and you can't do what you've always done. Otherwise, you're going to lose year in, year out. And I think that's evidenced by watching what Niall Morgan has done and watching what you've done as well. Like, I guess you guys must be under pressure every winter to try and come up with something new.
Yeah, look, everybody knows the competitiveness of Ulster and how tough it is to get out of it. And especially with, it's not just even Tyrone and Donegal now. You've seen Calvin win at the other in 2020 there, and even likes of Armagh now coming up. There's a lot more teams than just it was Tyrone and Donegal and Monaghan. A lot more teams are thinking now that they can get out and win Ulster and stuff. So every other team's coming with something this year. Armagh brought this kicking game a lot this year, a lot of intensity around the middle third. You've seen with the likes of maybe us and Tyrone, especially with myself or Niall coming out. I just think you need to take something else to the table now that's going to maybe upset the opposition, and it's something that we felt we needed to adapt more to our game. Bring more to our game was maybe trying to get up the field a wee bit more, getting more scores from our forwards and stuff, and it was something that we felt we were doing a lot throughout the league, was getting a lot of scores and different scores on the board. People would always put the knife at us that we are too reliant on Conor McManus, but I felt we had a lot more players step up this year. But just unfortunately, when it got to Ulster, we were one step short just to get through against Tyrone. But as you said, it's a very competitive province with a lot more teams confident now that they can go and win an Ulster Championship, which makes it so competitively.
I'd say, Rory, when you started out, at 12, 14, 15 points in a game would probably have not guaranteed victory, but it would have been thereabouts. Over the last 12 months, things have changed completely, and you need to put up big scores. So what happened? Why did that change occur, and what do you put it down to?
Yeah, I think my first Ulster final was 2013, and I think we hit 15 points in that game to win it. And I think in the 14 Ulster final, Donegal hit 15 points to our 1-9, and it was slowly then starting to get bigger scores, and there was a couple of landslide victories in them Ulster finals up until maybe the last couple of years. And like even seen in the Armagh game this year with us in the semi-final, like the half-time score was a hurling score, and I think that's just teams are coming out of that mould now of sitting every man back and trying to hold out leads and stuff. I think teams are now starting to try an open, expansive game of kicking, playing more people up top, and I think they feel this is the way that you're going to win in All Ireland. Yes, you need a steely defence, and you need, but I think your defence starts from the top, and it's by putting teams under pressure further out the field. And I think a lot of teams now are well versed and have trained a lot trying to break down blanket defences, and they're doing that in probably every training session. And when teams come up to set up against them in that shape, when you come into a championship game or whatever, I think teams are well versed and well trained now and well coached to break these down. And I think teams are now sort of trying to, it's just becoming a bit of a shootout now and who can score more, and that was so evident this year. Maybe not so much our Ulster final in a way, but even if you've seen the Armagh game and maybe the Tyrone Donegal game and stuff, it was a lot more teams are playing that open game now, and it's a lot more exciting to watch.
I guess that increases the importance of the goalkeeper as well. Like, I haven't checked the statistics, but I assume that means more shots, more kickouts.
Yeah, a lot more kickouts, and it's not a case that you're just tapping the ball out anymore. You have to find those kickouts. A lot of teams are putting big presses on your kickouts now, so it makes it more interesting, obviously, for the viewers and stuff, to see more 50-50 kickouts. But it's you're going to see a lot more of keepers trying to find them long range 100% possession kickouts, and it's great to see it that every team's putting a big focus on their kick out press now, and even it's a great challenge for us. It's sometimes it can be frustrating when you have to tap the ball out maybe 15 yards to your cornerback and try and work it up past 15 players on the opposition team. So it's good though when teams press up and you do get that longer kick out. You're away on the attack. Teams aren't set up and you have a better chance of getting a goal or a point. So it's probably a lot more enjoyable to play in as well, I suppose. And not whenever your team banging and the opposition team's banging over point after point after point and you're constantly kicking the ball out, but it is more enjoyable to play in when your team's doing the damage as well.
Because we had Eamon Fitzmaurice on with us before the season began, Rory, and he was talking about obviously every team now have a plan to press the opposition goalkeeper, and he reckons that the next innovation, which is currently underway, is that goalkeepers are trying to find ways over the press and that they may actually leave a couple of extra bodies in the opposition half when they're on their own kick out. Is that something you did with Monaghan this year?
It's something we tried. We tried a couple of times. Only like some of the presses we did come up against this year were it wasn't that aggressive that we had to leave bodies in behind. It was just a case that teams went really man-to-man and went really aggressive on it. I think a lot more teams are doing the man-to-man approach, but just really getting a hold on their man. But it's not something that we really came across, that we had 3 or 4 extra men in behind the press that we could try. We tried a couple of long ones this year that if we did beat a good few guys, that it was a 50-50 over, say, you've taken out maybe 8 Armagh players and you've got a 50-50 in your half-forward line, that you win it. It's high reward, low risk that if you lose it. So it's definitely something I think next year you'll see a lot more of teams just pressing way up and forcing the keeper into a long 50-50. That's what teams are looking for now. And as I said, it's not something that we came across loads this year, but I expect a lot to happen next year.
Have you seen any other innovations from the other teams when you've been out of the championship, and in terms of what they're doing? Is anybody trying something new that you're like, oh, that's a bit interesting?
Not particularly, not that I've noticed in the games that I've watched. Only the one game that I've watched since we've lost the Mayo Dublin game, but I noticed that Dublin tend to do it a lot, is sort of take everyone out past the 45 and leave nobody inside the 45, and it sort of leaves the opposition at do we stay in, do we come out with them and then they'll be just on a foot race to a short kick out. It's something that I've seen a lot happening with the Dubs especially, and I can see a lot more teams trying it because you're leaving a lot of Dublin players out in a certain area, and then Dublin are trying to beat you in a foot race to try and win it. So that's one of the ones I've seen, and then obviously it's the one with the keeper coming out into the space that the midfielders aren't occupying, to sort of put out them long options into the pockets. So it gives the forwards a really good chance to press and get really tight to their man, that they know they're not going to be beat over the top because somebody's in that area. I haven't really seen many innovations, to be honest.
That's interesting. And I think that's something you guys would have done as well, where on the opposition kick out everybody pushes up and you're essentially the point man for you're the end of the press, but you're making sure that everybody else feels confident going forward with the press.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than players going really high and pressing on their man and doing their job really, and then bang, someone's made a run into a space 60 yards and heading towards your goal, and there's nothing more demoralising of it, because you'd rather they just win it in the corner back line and have them to work past all these. But I think when Niall probably done it against us in the first half in the Ulster final, it sort of blocked off them sort of runs into that pocket, and we maybe just didn't engage him enough. And I think obviously Niall's got the licence to maybe go and keep going and maybe go up as far as he can if he wants. You've seen that there. He tried to press one of our full-backs at one stage in that game. But if you have a goalkeeper who's confident to go and contest a kick out, if it does come out his side, then I think it's a valuable asset to have in your team. That if you're cutting off them long ones into the pocket that can cause a lot of danger, then I think you're in the right way to breaking down a opposition's kick out strategy.
When you're contributing to open play, Rory, how do you weigh up whether or not you go?
I think if you see space and it's probably not, I don't like to maybe be caught in the middle a lot. I sort of like to get maybe a lot on the wings that I can sort of play that long ball in, or if it's a case, I'd like just to get it, try and just maybe ease the pressure on our defenders if they're being under pressure from the man they're marking. I just tend to be that outlet for them and try to hit a space to maybe spread the play or whatever it is. I try not to get involved as much in the attacking sense, so I leave that to players who are more competent with the ball and are more competent of kicking a pass. But I'm just there to be that person that, right, these players are struggling, they're being pinned to the sideline here, let me get the ball and let's get it switched. That's why I want to be out there, is just to ease the burden on these defenders, to try and get the ball switched and try and get an attack going, maybe the other side where there's maybe not as many of the opposition. So that's one of the main reasons. But I just tend to, if I see space, to try to get into it and try and just get the play going the other side. That's a big part of what I try to do.
Is it planned at all? Is it a conversation with Banty at all? Was it conversations you were having with Malachy a few years ago about when you go and how to contribute?
Yeah, it's small conversations. It's not built into our team meetings or anything. It's just small conversations with the managers in regards to, I don't want to overstep it either. Like, I always say, when do you want me to go, or should I go with this at these stages in the games and stuff? And it's just small conversations with the coaches and stuff, and they'll set me in the right path. I don't want to be a case that I'm going to do it against the manager's wishes or anything. So, as you said, it's just little small conversations with them to make sure that I'm contributing in the right way. And then I'll come at half time and I'll say, look, is this causing a problem to the opposition? Is this slowing us up? If it's the case that it's slowing up our attacking play, I'd tend to stay out of it then and allow the rest of them to do it. But usually you do it a lot more in the last 10 minutes, maybe when you're chasing a game. You're becoming that extra player, that overlap. And that's when I tend to do a lot more of that attacking and extra man, is when we're probably chasing the game with about 10, 15, 20 minutes to go.
It's funny, it makes a lot of sense when you talk about it like that, but it probably in the future is going to be the case where keepers decide to do it from the start to create that overlap, because if it makes sense at the end, it probably also makes sense at the start. What's next? What is the next evolution of this, Rory, do you think?
Yeah, as you said, it's probably going to be from the start. Now, that's a lot of fitness work over the winter to do, but that's probably going to be the next evolution of it. It's just going to be a keeper who's confident, who's got confident on the ball, who's confident to maybe take people on, who's confident to tackle, stuff like that. There, I think it's just going to evolve a lot over the next couple of years. And as you said, you're going to see a lot more keepers probably firing up 1 or 2 points in play, which is going to be the norm. I think just that's the way it's going to go. Like, keepers, a lot more keepers you see are playing probably outfield for their club and are confident to go into that situation. If a keeper can kick a ball off a tee and gain possession and is confident on the ball out the field, I think that's going to be probably the most important areas of a goalkeeper compared to maybe shot stopping and high ball and stuff like that.
What do you expect then from Niall Morgan this weekend, Rory? Because it does seem that if Kerry have an Achilles heel that is yet to be exposed, it is going to be that traction engine of a boot firing it over the press that is going to be one way to beat them.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be so important this weekend in regards to firstly just being that extra man coming out of defence. Kerry, again, like to adopt the high press from the top. But again, it's very hard to press when a team with an extra player looking to be on the ball. With Niall being that extra man, so that's going to be a big important part. And people tend to forget Niall has a really long boot of him as well out of the hands. He can get that ball up the field 60 yards, no problem outside the boot, and he's done that a few times this year. And that's going to be a big option if Kerry are pressing high and throwing a wonder short, and he gets the ball and he hits, say, could be Matty Donnelly or Cal McShane or whoever it is, you know, out in the opposition 45, you know, how much pressure that is eased on Tyrone, and you know, they've got a carry defence who maybe aren't well set up at the moment. You know, that's going to be a big part of what I think Niall can offer at the weekend. But again, his kickouts, you know, maybe Tyrone's Achilles heels when they come up against these teams is they hadn't had that, you know, option long out the pitch to hit those long ones against Kerry, and Kerry would always be seen as this big team around midfield. But I think now with the likes of Kennedy, Conor McKenna, even Matty Donnelly, Con Kilpatrick, these guys are now an option to go long. And I remember reading Niall's article, I actually read it after Just to finally talked about that. He talked about that he's happy now that he has that option, that if he goes 50-50, Tyrone will compete with it. So I think if he'll have no problem, if Kerry have a real high press and they're not getting away, he'll have no problem hitting 50-50 to them boys, and confident that they will win it. So I think that's a big change in Tyrone in the last number of years.
What were you thinking when Robbie Henley was standing over the retaken 45? What did you expect to happen?
Very impressed with how he handled it. Very impressed. I with the way the first free was taken and how much he missed it by. I was worried that, you know, it was hard to maybe refocus yourself and get that composure. But I was just delighted for him that it went over. I can't actually remember what I was thinking at that time. You know, I wanted him to score. I wanted to go to extra time. Because I'd be pally enough with Rob, and you know, I was delighted to see him to get that. And you know, he was striking them well. He was striking them well throughout the game, and I just felt he maybe mishit that one. I was just hoping that he would have re-got his composure just to strike that one, and he struck it so well. But just delighted for him, really. After, you know, he's had a couple of tough times in Croke Park, especially against Dublin, so it's nice to put that to bed, really.
Liam Sheedy's in the paper today in the Examiner talking about how the Limerick hurling team are in everybody's heads, and I guess in football for the last 7 years, really, the Dubs were in everybody's heads significantly to try and, you know, you've got to build your game plan for you guys to get out of Ulster, but after that happens, you must have some kind of game plan that you're working on to try and counteract what Dublin were doing. And then this year, Cluxton isn't part of that anymore. As a goalkeeper, when Cluxton came out of that setup, and this isn't a knock on Evan Comerford at all, but did it take some of the sheen and the power and the mythology away from the Dubs?
Team seen it as a chance, yeah. I definitely do. And as you said, it's not a knock on Evan Comerford. I thought he acquitted himself very well this year in the Dublin setup. I just think he had that period after half time when Mayo really had to chase it. Like, you know, I thought they really put him under pressure at times. He hit some absolutely brilliant kickouts in the game, but in regards to, you know, when teams have come up against Cluxton, I think Tomas O'Shea put up a stat in RTE before that game to talk about Cluxton's kickouts in the second half of games against Mayo throughout the years. Something like 47 kickouts he'd hit in those games, and he did. The Dublin team had won 42 of them. That's an amazing stat, absolutely unbelievable stat, and that just goes to show what he brought to that team. That composure when teams were pressing, that composure when the Dubs were under the cosh. He brought that presence, that leadership, and that's maybe something that Evan doesn't just have just yet, but something that he could gain over the next couple of years. But I think that's where teams have thought, yeah, we have a chance now. We can really put Dublin under pressure on their own kickouts in that last 10 minutes, where it would have been a certainty really for Cluxton to nail them.
And when Mayo knocked them off, I presume there's it's an electric jolt through teams like Monaghan, I would say, like Armagh, like any of those teams who feel like they're coming, that actually the All-Ireland is there over the next couple of years. There is no super team anymore.
Oh, there is no, like, I don't want to be writing the Dubs off. Like, Dubs were beat in 2014 and went on and that amazing run. So it's like, I don't know if we can see Dublin doing that again, but, you know, Kerry have got a lot better, Mayo have got a lot better, Tyrone have got a lot better, look, we've got better, Donegal have got better. As you said, there's a lot more teams thinking they can win All Ireland now, and you know that makes it a lot tougher. It makes it a lot tougher to get out of Ulster, because all these teams now think that they can go and to win an All Ireland. So look, every team's going to be raising their game now this year, thinking that they have a chance now of winning it more so than the last number of years. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Dubs react to it next year and how they approach it. But yeah, as you said, a lot of teams are a lot of teams have jumped in them now to get a game plan ready to try and contest for firstly a provincial title, but then move on to bigger things.
Rory, it probably seems a little bit trivial at this point looking back on your kick-out strategy this year, given the tragedy in Monaghan earlier this year before the Armagh game. I know that the Month's Mind Mass for Ogie Duffy was at the weekend. From your own perspective, from the team's perspective, Rory, just how tough were those few weeks from the Armagh game and then into the Ulster final?
Yeah, it was very tough, very tough. I remember just so clearly that when the news broke, it was obviously the morning of the Armagh game. It was the night before obviously it happened, but it was the morning before I heard it. I woke up to go to the toilet. I think it was around 6 o'clock, and there was just a text on the phone from somebody just telling me what had happened, and I just was wide awake from when I seen that. I just put in disbelief a lot more so that had happened. We had watched this man lead his team to an Ulster final the night before, and to go into to get that news the next morning was just could not believe it. And we had to focus ourselves for a game against Armagh that day. And I remember when we got into the hotel, Seamus, he handled it really well with the players. We spoke about it. We didn't just brush it on the cup. We spoke about it, and we had some of the 21s involved in our panel, and to make sure that they had someone who could talk to in that period was huge. But even it just shook the whole county. It shook probably a lot of people outside the county throughout Ireland. And you seen that the funeral, like the numbers that were out, like the whole town was packed, lying in the streets. And he was a leader in the minor teams. He was a leader in the 21s, and you can see he had so much respect among his players, among his friends, and stuff like that there. And it just goes to show the impact he had in modern football at such a young age. And he's destined for great things with Monaghan senior footballers, and it's devastating that we'll never see him again. It was really, really tough couple of weeks for everybody in Monaghan, and it was just a case that we wanted to do him proud. And I thought the 20s team in that Ulster final, putting in an absolutely unbelievable performance. To go through all that and put in that performance, I was heartbreaking for them that they couldn't get the win, but they really done their captain proud in that game with the performance to put in. And it was tough that we couldn't get that trophy for him over that weekend, but I'm sure he's proud of every single one of them boys.
Rory, in times like this, we always say, put sport in context, but actually the outpouring that sport allowed people to come out, and we need sport more than ever in times like this.
You do. It just shows how much the GAA, how much power it has in the community, how it brought everybody together. The scenes, like the funeral, it really sticks with me. You had the down 20s down that time. I know they were playing them in the Ulster final. Some of the Donegal 20s were down. The GAA president was down. Everybody was wearing GAA jerseys on the streets, all Monaghan Harps jerseys, all Ogie number 6 jerseys, and it just goes to show how everybody comes together and how the GAA is such a big part of this as well. Gaelic football is a big part of his life, and everybody rallied around the family and stuff like that after the news. And I'm sure the family took a lot. We've seen Brendan has spoke a lot in the last maybe week or two, and the strength that he's had to come out and speak about it. Especially at half time in the Ulster final, he was talking to TG Cahir, and he was Norty really won last week as well. And the strength that he has had, but the amount of people that have shown condolences to that family over the last number of weeks has been phenomenal, and just goes to show how much the GAA has been a big part of that.
No, for sure. Rory, thanks a million for sharing that with us, and also for talking to us this morning. Cheers.